Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Ballabha Jaya Giribara Dhari Jaya Giribara Dhari. Jaya Gopijana Ballabha Jaya Giribara Dhari Jaya Giribara Dhari. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda Radha Goloka Nanda Radhe Jaya Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya जय हो विष्णुपाद परमहंस डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय हो विष्णुपाद परमहंस डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद ठाकुर की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त विंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। श्री मथुरा धाम की जय। श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री गौर निताय की जय। सामवेद भक्तविंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल। All glories to assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Namo Vishwudaya Krishna Bodhle Shade Gopal Sati Namne Prabhupada Sasati Sati Samachara. Namo Vishwudaya Krishna Bodhle Shade Bhaktivedanta Swami Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are continuing our study of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 46, and today we are reading verse 41. Ratha Brahmarika Drishtya. Yatha Brahmarika Drishtya. Brahmayativa Mahite. Chitte Kartari Tatratma. Kartevaham Diyasmrita. Yatha Brahmarika Drishtya. Brahmayativa Mahiyate. Chitte Kartari Tatratma. Kartevaham Diyasmrita. Yatha Brahmarika Drishtya. Brahmyativa Mahiyate. Chitte Kartari Tatratma. Kartevaham Diyasmrita. Brahma Dishya. Brahmayati Brahmayate. Yatha Brahmarika Drishtya. Brahmayativa Mahiyate. Chitte Kartari Tatratma. Kartevaham Diyasmritam. Yatha Brahmarika Drishtya. Brahmayata Mahiyate. Chitte Kartari Tatratma. Kartevaham Diyasmrita. Yatha ब्रह्मारिका दृष्ट्या ब्रह्मायते चिते कर्तारि तत्र करते भाम क्रिया. Word for word meaning. Yatha, as. Brahmarika, because of whirling around. Drishtya, in one's vision. Brahmyati, whirling. Iva, as if. Mahi, the ground. Iyate, appears. Chitte, the mind. Kartari, being the doer. Tatra, there. Atma, the self. Karta, the doer. Eva, as if. Aham dhiya, because of false ego. Smrita is thought. Translation and purport by disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Just as a person who is whirling around perceives the ground to be turning, one who is affected by false ego thinks himself the doer when actually only his mind is acting. Please repeat. Just as a person who is whirling around perceives the ground to be turning, one who is affected by false ego thinks himself the doer, when actually only his mind is acting. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti gives a parallel idea. Although our happiness and distress are caused by our own interaction with the material qualities, we perceive the Lord to be their cause. Om Jnana Trimandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshuranmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Gopal Krishna Goswami Iti Namine Prabhupadasya Sahitam Prakasita Vicharam Kusala. So the verse again. Yatha brahmarika drishtya brahmyati vamahiyate chitte kartari tatratma karte vaham dhiya smrita. Just as a person who is whirling around perceives the ground to be turning, one who is affected by false ego thinks himself the doer, when actually only his mind is acting. So we're going to quickly read from the purports, the tikas by the Goswamis, and then we'll try to offer some words about it. Jiva Goswami says, why does it appear that the Lord is absorbed in the gunas? This verse answers, the ground appears to turn around by the impressions left after a person is turned around like a potter's wheel. Though the mind is the doer, the jiva, thinking that he is the mind, concludes that the Atma, with its pure swarup, is the doer. Similarly, the Lord appears to be absorbed in creation and destruction. And Sanatana Goswami says, why does it appear to common people that the Lord is absorbed in the gunas? It is a perception based on their point of view. So in the previous verse, which Santosh Prabhu talked about yesterday. It was said that the Lord is beyond the three modes of material nature. And it just looks like he's interacting with them, and he uses those two for his showing his pastimes. And Santosh Prabhu explained why at this point the Lord, Uddhava, instead of continuing with the personal glorification of the Lord, he is glorifying the Lord through philosophy. And as Prabhu said, it's really for all our benefit. And this particular verse is another one of those very much philosophical and for our understanding, for our benefit. We're going around spinning around in this world, just like a potter's wheel, constantly going, constantly spinning, thinking that we are the caretaker of the family, we are the ones earning the living, we are the ones feeding the children, we are the ones doing everything. And the reality really is that we just think that we are doing all that. We are under the influence of the modes of nature. And it's only because of those modes of nature that we're doing what we're doing. So at one point in one of the purpose, Prabhupada said that, all along Prabhupada says that the only real doer, the ultimate doer, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he's not responsible for all of this happiness, distress, bondage, liberation of all of us, the conditioned soul. And Prabhupada said that it is due to the results of the fruitive activities of the living entities within this world that all this is happening. So just like by the order of a judge, a person is released from the jail, okay, and another is imprisoned. But the judge is not responsible for the distress or the happiness of various people who are in the jail or released from the jail due to their activities. So the government is the ultimate responsible one, but they've got all of these justices administered according to the actions of people, and it is not according to what the government just thinks. Government doesn't just think, well, so and so needs to go in the jail because we don't like them, and so can be released because we like them. Unfortunately, that's how we in America seem to think the world is being run. So it's another example that Prabhupada gave is of sunshine, okay, and lilies. So the lilies open according to sunshine and close when the sun is set. And the bumblebees, which are enjoying the nectar from the lilies, enjoy or suffer according to whether the lilies are open or closed. But the sunshine or the sun itself is really not responsible for the happiness and distress of the bumblebees. Prabhupada has talked extensively about this this concept of doer, starting from Bhagavad Gita 3:27, where Krishna says, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So we're all acting under the three modes of material nature, and everything we do is according to that. And we see that the two people, Santosh Prabhu talked about that yesterday, about about shopping. So two people, one in Krishna consciousness, one is material consciousness, could be working on exactly the same platform. Same kind of things, same platform. But there is a lot of difference between the two positions. Person in the material consciousness, he is convinced by his false ego that he is the doer. He is the successful one. He is the one running the country. He is the one who's everything. But then he doesn't realize that he's acting under the material modes, and that he is really working under the supervision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so he, without recognizing that, he takes the credit for everything. But a person who is in Krishna consciousness, in the service of the Lord, realizes that everything is according to Rishikesh, who is the master of senses. And he is the one under whose guidance we are working, and we only exist because of him, and we only work under his modes of nature. And in Krishna consciousness, when we are totally in Krishna consciousness, we rise above the modes of material nature and become under the spiritual energy of Krishna. But in the meantime, every day we are under the modes of material nature. So in the purport for Srimad Bhagavatam 4:29-4, Prabhupada says, as soon as one desires to enjoy his senses, he puts himself under the control of material energy, and automatically or mechanically is placed in the cycle of birth and death in various life forms. So it's because of our desire to enjoy material nature that we get under the control of material energy. And we think that we are really independent of any laws of the Lord or material nature. And people like to think that there is no need for following any regulative principles. There's no need, they can just follow whatever their heart desires, follow any sinful activities, and keep going. But the reality is that according to how somebody acts in this life, they get the reactions in the next life. Just this morning, something came across, and then it was like, oh yes, that's exactly what happened to Bharat Maharaj. So nobody is above this. Bharat Maharaj, who is such a realized soul, and he's spending his life meditating on the Lord. And in his meditation, he comes across this, do you all know? Deer. And he gets attached to that deer. And because of that attachment to the deer, he becomes a deer in his next birth. But he was very fortunate because he, during his life, had been very attached to the Lord's name, and he remembered what happened to him in the previous birth as a deer. So he led even his deer life in a very, he said, Krishna conscious way. He hung around the hermitages, he ate prashadam, and then ultimately he continued his journey as in his next form as Jarabharat, and eventually perfected himself. So, but he had to go through, he was a king, he had to go become a deer, he became a devotee, he became ultimately even a demon, but he had to go through all of his karmic reaction. And like that, we all have to go through our karmic reactions. So, in some of the other places, Prabhupada talks about Prabhupada talks about this particular verse of Bhagavad Gita 3:27, which is directly related to our verse today, 10:46-41, that the bewildered spirit soul under the influence of the three modes of material nature thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by material nature, by the modes of nature. So he talks about it at several places. In the purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 6.5.15, Prabhupada says, although one follows the dictations of material nature, he happily thinks himself the master or husband of material nature. Scientists, for example, try to be the masters of material nature, life after life, not caring to understand the Supreme Person, under whose direction everything within this material world is moving. Trying to be the masters of material nature, they are imitation gods who declare to the public that scientific advancements will one day be able to avoid the so-called control of God. In fact, however, the living beings unable to control the rulings of God is forced to associate with the prostitute or polluted intelligence and accept various material bodies. In another purport, 6.12.7, Prabhupada said, the living entities work only under the direction of the Supreme Lord. The Lord gives order to material nature, and she arranges facilities for the living entities. The living entities are not independent, although they foolishly think themselves the doers. Karta. Okay. So, it's always under the direction of the Lord, under the direction of material energy, who is under the direction of the Lord, that we work. We are not independent. We are part and parcel of the Lord, and our eternal position is Satchidanand. However, because of the modes of material nature, we forget that. And we think we are in control and we need to be enjoying this material world and everything that this material world has to offer. The material nature includes all the living entities, and we take those forms according to the modes that we operate under and how we act and what are the actions we take. And in this chaotic conditions of the world, with such ignorant leaders who really forget that they are really working under the orders of the Lord, we see that they don't follow godliness and the principles of the Lord, and then chaos ensues. And it's by following the Bhagavad Gita, which is really a very thorough manual of what to do in this material world and how to work in this material, under the influence of this material energy, we can get out of this chaos and distress. In the summary of the 6th canto, 17th chapter of 6th canto, Prabhupada says that Chitraketu, however, was not at all afraid of Parvati's curse. Before this, Parvati Devi was, Chitraketu was enjoying the benefits of all his karmas, and he was going around and he comes across Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi, and Parvati Devi is sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva, and he laughs at them, and Parvati Devi is upset and she curses him. So, but he is learned and he speaks, he's not afraid of that curse because he understands. He says, everyone in human society enjoys happiness and distress according to his past deeds, and in this way travels in the material world. Therefore, no one is responsible for his happiness and distress. One is controlled by the influence of material nature in the material world. Yet one thinks himself the doer of everything. In this material world, which is made of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, one is sometimes cursed and sometimes favored, and thus he sometimes enjoys in the upper planetary systems and sometimes suffers in the lower planets. But all these situations are the same because they are within this material world. None of these positions has any factual existence, for all of them are temporary. So everything material is temporary, and the only permanence is spiritual, and that is related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that example that we talked about earlier, where two people are acting in the same way, they're doing the same things, but one is acting according to material, his material desires, and the other way is acting in the service of the Lord. So one has this effect that Chitraketu Maharaj is talking about, which is in the material platform, but the other one, who is acting in the service of the Lord, they do not get those reactions which are temporary. They get the permanent reaction. Even in Bharat Maharaj's story, what stayed with him was all of his spiritual reactions, all of the bhakti that he had done, the service he had done to the Lord. That went with him through life after life after life until he was liberated. The material part of anything he did gave him the next birth, and there was reactions related, but it didn't go and get him to liberation. So that is kind of how I understood these reactions to be, and why we are not the doers. We are under the influences, and we work under those influences. In another place, Prabhupada talks about this doer, and that's 7.2.21, and he says, all living entities act exactly according to the directions of Prakriti, material nature, because in the material world we are fully under a higher control. All the living entities in this material world have come here only because they wanted to be equal to Krishna in enjoyment, and have thus been sent here to be conditioned by material nature in different degrees. In the material world, a so-called family is a combination of several persons in one home to fulfill the terms of their imprisonment. As criminal prisoners scatter as soon as their terms are over, they are released. All of us who have temporarily assembled as family members will continue to our respective destinations. Another example given is that family members are like straws carried together by the waves of a river. Sometimes such straws mix together in whirlpools and later disperse again by the same waves. They float alone in the water. So we are in this prison under the guidance of Durga Devi, who is the prisoner. And she controls the material, modes of material nature. And we work under all of that. So we should not be acting in independent, or we should not think that we are independent of material nature. It's only when we are above these modes, as pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada becomes, because of their pure devotional service, then they are above the material modes. We, on an everyday basis, we see this around us every day. Our lives, the mornings that we spend here give us the stability to understand that the whirlpool, the whirling that happens in us, the spinning that goes on in our lives every day. And it makes us realize and understand that we're not in control. We are not the doers. Really, we're not the ones who are dressing the deities. It's only the deities who allow us to dress them. And so we're not the doers. I'm not here speaking to exalted devotees, giving a class. It's only because the Lord has allowed me, with Prabhupada's mercy, to sit here and repeat Prabhupada's words. So that kind of a recognition is very easy to do in classes like this, when we are listening to Prabhupada, when we are reading Prabhupada's purports, when we are basically just repeating Prabhupada's words. But what's important is really to remember all of these and work with that every day, 24/7, so that we can really understand that we are not the doers. We are acting under the modes of material nature. Who is acting under the instructions of Krishna? And really our purpose is to act only under the direction of Krishna and what Krishna wants. His service as he wants it. I'm going to end with this prayer from Ishopanishad, 18th mantra. Angenai, where Rupa Goswami says, Angenai suptarai asman vishwani deva vayunani vidwan yuyuddhi asmaj juhuranam ino bhuishtam te nama ukti vidhema. He says, O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me to the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions of my past sins so that there will be no hindrance in my progress. So it's that kind of a prayers that we need to operate from. Yes, we have past sins. Yes, we have reactions to all of those. Yes, as we are going forward, we are acting under the modes. And in most cases, we are creating more reactions. But ultimately, this is the mantra given by our great Acharya Rupa Goswami. And if we try to follow some of this, and ultimately, Krishna always listens. Ultimately, Krishna will see our sincerity and give us what we desire, or what we deeply desire. We don't know we desire because we don't. If we desired it strongly enough, we would be completely following what our acharyas are telling us. But I, for one, don't have that deep desire. I don't see that deep desire. And I get entangled every day in that whirlpool. Gets just spun around. And think that I can control it. Think I'm controlling it. But really don't recognize that I'm not going to be able to do it. In that purport on the Ishnupnishad, as Prabhupada said, since the omnipotent Lord is situated within the heart of everyone, He can give directions to His sincere devotees by which they can attain the right path. Such directions are specially offered to the devotees even if he desires something else. As far as others are concerned, God gives sanction to the doer only at the risk of the doer. But in the case of a devotee, the Lord directs him in such a way that he never acts wrongly. The Srimad Bhagavatam 11.542 says, I'm going to skip the Sanskrit, the Lord is so kind to the devotees who is fully surrendered to His lotus feet that even though the devotee sometimes falls into the entanglement of vikarma, acts against the Vedic directions, the Lord at once rectifies such mistakes from within his heart. This is because the devotee is very dear to the Lord. This mantra of Shri Ishnupnishad, the devotee prays to the Lord to rectify him from within his heart. To err is human. A conditioned soul is very often apt to commit mistakes. And the only remedial measure to take against such unintentional sins is to give himself to the lotus feet of the Lord, so that he may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. The Lord takes charge of fully surrendered souls. Thus all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself onto the Lord and acting in terms of His directions. Such directions are given to the sincere devotees in two ways. One is by way of the saints, scriptures, and spiritual master, and the other is by way of the Lord Himself, who resides within the heart of everyone. Thus the devotee fully enlightens this with Vedic knowledge, is protected in all respects. So 18 Ishnupnishad. And so Uddhava is not really talking to Nanda Maharaj, because Nanda Maharaj already knows all this. He's a surrendered soul to Krishna, and he's really talking to us. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. I just follow Prabhupada. Thank you.
Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalaya Taksham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Lasyan Vipan Vikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam
Shringavamana Shri Madhusudana Rajendra Nandana Shama Shringavamana Shri Madhusudana Rajendra Nandana Shama Bhutana Gatana Kaitava Shatana Jaya Dasarati Rama Yashoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara Darbara Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara Ravana Takara Makana Taskara Gopi Jana Vastrahari Rajera Rakala Gopa Vrindapala Chitari Bamsidari Gopa Vrindapala Chitari Yogendra Vandana Srinandanandana Raja Jana Bayahari Nandana Srinandanandana Raja Jana Navina Nirara Rupa Manohara Mohana Bamshi Bihari Mohana Bamshi Bihari Yashoda Nandana Kamsani Sudana Nikunjara Savilasi Adamba Kanana Rasa Parayana Vrindavikina Nivasi Rasa Parayana Ananda Vardana Premani Chaitana Ula Shara Jojakatama Ananda Vardana Premani Chaitana Ula Shara Jojakatama Gopangana Gana Chita Vinodana Samasta Guna Gana Dhamma Yamuna Jivana Keli Parayana Manasa Chandra Chakora Namasudharasa Gopa Krishna Jasha Rakovachana Manamora Sagoa Krishna Jasa Rakovachana Manamora Namasudharasa Goa Krishna Jasha Rakovachana Manamora Nivavari Shesha Loka Proveta Nirachani Utajiva Shesha Loka Proveta Nirachani Utajiva Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagriva Murari Rama Krishna Hayagriva Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Radha Shama Sundara, Radha Shama Sundara, Shama Sundara, Shama Sundara. Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda, Radha Goloka Nanda Shri Radhe. Radha Goloka Nanda, Radha Goloka Nanda Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda, Radha Goloka Nanda Shri Radhe. Radha Goloka Nanda, Radha Goloka Nanda Shri Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Sri Vrindavan Dham. Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Sri Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Haribo, 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 Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga Jai Satinandana, Jai Satinandana, Jai Satinandana, Jai Satinandana, Gaurari, Gaurari, Jai Satinandana, Gaurari, Satinandana, Gaurari. The night has come to an end, and the light of dawn is entering. O Jiva soul, arise and give up your sleep. Chant the holy names of Lord Hari, giver of liberation, enemy of demon Mura, supreme enjoyer, all attractive, and Hayagriva, the horse-headed incarnation. Nrsimha, half man, half lion incarnation. Vamana, dwarf Brahman incarnation. Killer of demon Madhu, beloved son of Raja's ruler, beautifully dark complexion, slayer of witch Putana, destroyer of demon Kaitaba, and victorious son of Dasarath, Lord Ram. Darling of Yashoda, giver of pleasure to cows, land, and spiritual senses. Cow protector, Lord of Vrindavan, the gopis' beloved, lover of Radhika, and most beautiful in all the worlds. Cause of demon Ravana's demise as Lord Ram, butter thief, robber of the gopi girls' clothes, young herdsman of Braja, protector of the other coward boys, thief of hearts and flute carrier, worshipped by the best of the yogis, Nanda's joy, remover of all fears for the people of Braja, colored like a fresh rain cloud, enchanting in form and charming while wandering and playing a flute. Yashoda's joy, vanquisher of demon king Kamsa, enjoyer of the rasa dance among the forest groves, and especially under the Kadamba trees, and resident of the woods of Vrinda, increasing the ecstasy for his devotees, reservoir of all love, the transcendental Cupid who uses his flowered arrows to increase the loving desires of the gopis, the pleasure of the hearts of all coward women and men, and the abode of all wonderful qualities, the life of the Jamuna River, always absorbed in amorous pastime, and moon of the wild, which is like the phoenix Jacora bird. Heed my words, O mind, these holy names are full of nectarian mellows. Therefore sing the glories of Krishna. Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki. Darpana Marjana Bhavamaha Devagni Nirvana. Nam Nam Kari Bhavda
Shitava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midvishamihat Janina Nuraga Trinada Pisu Nichena Tarora Pisu Hishuna Amanina Manadena Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamae Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatat Bhaktir Vaitaki Twahi Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Vishame Bhavam Buddhav Kribayata Vabada Pankajas Dita Tuli Sadrashim Pachintayam Nayanam Galashukarayat Bhadaram Gad Gadavardaya Gira Pulakarni Shitan Vadukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yuga Yatam Vishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahename Ashlishivapadam Ratam Manastumam Adarshanam Marmahato Karotuva Yatatatava Vidadatulam Patomat Prananatastusa Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement of benediction, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree,